Italy's a boot-shaped country by the sea with baguettes, and it's
beautiful.
In the year negative a billion, Italy might not have been there. In the year negative 40,000, it was there, and you could walk to it. And some people walked to it. Then it got warmer. It stayed the same, and didn't become an island. And now there's lots of tourists, because it's famous for its art. Now there's people in the country. They're basically sort of hanging out, discussing God and church and the meaning of existence, using art with saints and halos. We call this the Proto-Renaissance period. Ding dong, it's ancient Greece, and they have writings and studies, like really deep philosophy and crazy humanistic ideas. So now you can spend all your time focusing on man instead of God. That means if you believe in humanism, then you have a lot of inherent power, which is something everybody wants to survive. So that makes you cool. Humanism and humanistic beliefs spread all across the land, all the way to here. It spread so far that it reached a bunch of countries. There's one here, 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 and here. But this one is the most important. It's the birthplace of humanism, or Gnosticism for short.
Knock knock, get the door, it's religion.
The Catholic Church wants everyone to try this hot new religion from Judea. Please retry this religion, he said. No, said everybody. Try it, he said. No, said everybody again, quieter this time. And so the religion was forced back into place, and the culture started to change. Just not in the way the church wanted. Then the government was taken over by another religion, and they made some reforms, like making the government govern logically, and making the government less like a Catholic government, which is a government that governs more logically. Hi, church, they said. Hi, dipsticks, said the church. Can you call us something else other than dipsticks, said the humanists. Like what, said the church.
How about Sunrise Land,
said the humanists, and they stole the church's influence and made art about themselves. Then they made lots of technology and studies and more art about themselves. Then they stopped letting the church decide which laws they should follow, and they discovered a lot of new scientific theories. Get that squared away. A rich hipster named Michelangelo is bored with modern art styles and integrates realistic elements. Makes a better version which is less
spiritual,
sculpts David completely nude, and causes art and literature to be
great
for a long time. Italy started turning into such a dream world of realistic art that the church had a really hard time running the country. So if you were an artist, how are you supposed to express your humanistic beliefs?
Hire a samurai.
Just kidding, they didn't have samurai. But you could change the focal point of art from mainly religious arts into more realistic art, such as people being smaller than religious entities, to people being of the same size, taller, or they left out God altogether. Not that religious people painted normal humans. Still religious people who wanted to be hip painted saints, but they depicted them as humans, not heavenly figures. Humanism became big and powerful. More people were becoming humanistic rather than Catholic, so they became more accepted in daily life. They let the church still be a church, but regular people were actually in control.
Breaking news.
The art is really changing. The earth is not gold, said the artists. The earth has trees and rocks that are green. Okay, said Italy. So the backgrounds became landscapes, like the ones we see every day. And the gold backgrounds died in a tornado. But religious figures still had gold halos. Ain't it a nice time hanging out around the earth? But then the gold halos died in a tornado.
Now there's more art.
Like painting, with colors. Bigger paintings, plays, poetries, monkey fun, sculptures, portraiture, and architecture. It's time for the scientific revolution. With the introduction that the idea of God doesn't exist, mankind has begun to look for more explanations of the universe. So they begin to come up with stuff like the heliocentric solar system and laws of planetary motion as a replacement for God. They called it science. At around 1543, one guy named Copernicus was like, "Hey, what if the earth revolved around the sun?" To which the church replied, "Hey, how about we set you on fire? So who's right?"
Vote now on your phones.
And everyone voted so hard that the solar system caught on fire and burned down. Italy actually didn't care. It was off somewhere doing poetry. The 7-planet solar system, Earth isn't the center of the universe idea, was actually not really popular, and the theory didn't take shape until much later. Everyone is still trying to figure out if God is still the dude in charge, to which most people at this time are like, nah, and arguing about what created the universe, and it's any theory's game. So it's about the 1600s. Knock knock, it's Galileo. He's here to invent some stuff, so that's cool. But everyone's still confused as to whether or not science is a good thing, and if God is still a valid theory. And Galileo was like, "Hey, remember that Copernicus guy? He was right. Look at my telescope. I have observed stuff that proves that the heliocentric universe is a thing." And with this discovery came about a lot of early theorists to draw models of this new universe. The church was still pretty mad, though. So the scientific revolution is about halfway through conquering Italy when some guy running the church bans a bunch of books about science to keep the few people still supporting the church believing in the church. But this didn't stop people from seeing all the new scientific inventions and discoveries, like sunspots and planetary rings. A lot of people support these new ideas, but a lot of people support not supporting them. They have a fight, and they win, and put Galileo under house arrest, right here. But his work still gets out to the public, and science still continues to be a thing, even though it's illegal pretty much. But don't get confused. This is the hot new topic that everyone's talking about, and the Catholic Church is still very strict, so strict they ban a bunch of science-related work. No one can write about it, and no one can read those writings that weren't supposed to be happening. Over Over time, people began demanding more answers, and religious questioning began to gradually speed up. Knock knock. It's the people of Italy, with their humanistic beliefs, with their curiosity. Humanistic curiosity. Open the books. Stop having it be banned, said the humanists. The Index Expurgatorius was basically a grocery list, but instead of a list of food you need, it was a list of books you weren't allowed to read. You weren't allowed to write or own anything discussing divinatory arts, chiromancy, and the practice of judicial astrology. The general humanistic population hated this.
That sucks, they said. This sucks.
With the help of different popes having different opinions about what should and should not be banned, it was pretty easy to get around the index. In any case, it was also seen as impossible to maintain the index due to the constant shift of moral standards by which the items were judged along the production rate of these works, because of the new scientific discoveries. With the flood of these new discoveries, God became even smaller. This means the church had even less influence over the humanists. Then, with the production of scientific discoveries and religious degrading art, they downgraded a crap ton. Did I say downgrade? I meant upgrade. Then the church said, "Can you maybe chill?" And the humanists say, "How about maybe you chill?"
So you know what that means. Duh.
The humanists should take control, which they wanted to do anyway. So they sort of called nobody on the telly because telegrams weren't a thing. And then they did it. People who were referred to as political thinkers, along with theologists and philosophers, began calling themselves humanists officially. These people were sort of the new leaders of the Renaissance, so that's pretty cool for the humanists that make up the general population. There was even this one guy who was both a Catholic priest and a humanist. How do you ask? He picked pieces of both religions that he likes and then practiced them. He was said to heavily criticize the church, as well as the people who turned away from the church. A lot of people were like, "You cannot keep doing this to us." And Desiderius said,
How about I do anyway?
and continued to lead the way for many more people to follow suit in similar ways. So now we're about halfway through the Reformation period, basically a big party the humanists throw to reform the church in a way that isn't as strict as it was. But instead of a party, it's just a bunch of politically renowned people criticizing and beating on the church for being terrible. With the same mentality that Desiderius had, a lot of people now support the church, but also support humanism, and people are more confused than ever. The religious reformation is now a widespread thing, much larger than just Italy. Religious dissent is now being repressed. Several groups of reformers are now being forced into exile, and Italian Protestant communities continue to exist. Many Protestants are now participating in the theological controversies of the Age of Confessions and defending religious tolerance. Many prohibited books are now widely published and circulated. In Italy at this point, the church is now firmly under the crown's control. There's not much need for the Reformation anymore in concern of the church. Humanists are already widely accepted. The church doesn't have a lot of power anymore. At this point, most of Italy is pretty independent with their beliefs. Art is pretty great and hyper-realistic, and the church has been put in its place. Inevitably, the church did not and would not disappear. To this day, many beliefs are popping up, just like humanism did, but everything is still pretty cool, I guess.